the foreigners, all these people walking by who spoke languages, they said, they're not babbling. That's my language. They're praising God. Jews from all over the world gathered, walking by the street vendor, hearing God praised in their own languages. They all flocked toward the sound to see where this could be coming from. The man didn't want to leave his cart, didn't want to leave his shop, didn't want to leave things unattended, so he stayed. It was off down the street and around the corner. He couldn't quite see what was going on. Heard a lot of commotion. Hours later, he saw flocks of people coming by, soaking wet, smiling and grinning and talking about what they'd seen and experienced. Over the next few weeks, every day people headed this way, talking more and more. There were more and more people joining and gathering and being part of this thing that was happening. Every once in a while, one of his own friends walking by, they would invite him to join. He said, I can't go. I've got my things. I can't leave my shop. They continued to invite him and continue to go on by. One morning, as he came by to open the shop, he saw that it had been broken into, all the goods stolen, his cash reserve stolen, everything he had gone, his livelihood ruined. As he stood there looking at the mess, one of his friends who had been walking by every day for the meetings stopped and said, hey, why don't you come with me today? So he went. He followed his friend. He went to the meeting. He found that they were going to listen to some men teach. They claimed to have been with Jesus. Jesus, the man who had been crucified just weeks ago, who had been executed for claiming to be God and some other stuff. He hadn't really understood the whole thing. He just knew that that guy was bad news, not somebody to be messed with. But as they talked, they said many things that resonated with him, that sounded true. He could see that the people were really into what was happening. He could see that they were very serious about this. And then, toward the end of the meeting, they began to pray. But in the midst of the prayer, they asked if anybody else would like prayer, if they wanted anybody to pray for them. And his friend volunteered, said, hey, will you pray for my friend? He's in need. The man began to open up, explain that with his shop broken into, his goods stolen, his money gone, he wasn't sure how he'd face his family tonight. He wasn't sure how he would tell his wife that he didn't have dinner and that he didn't have money to replenish this, that he wouldn't have dinner the next night and that he wouldn't have dinner the following night either, and that their children were going to go hungry this week if he couldn't come up with some other way to find the money. And he had no idea what he was going to do because everything he had, every way he had to make money was there. They offered to pray for him. But also, one of the other men in the meeting said, you know, I have an extra cart I've been meaning to sell. I could sell it and give you the money that would cover you for a while, that would help you get back on your feet. Somebody else offered to bring food for the family so they wouldn't have to worry about that. Then others chimed in, yeah, we can bring food as well. You know what? We could find something for you to eat also. Why don't you come to our place and we will put you up? As these people gathered around and began to offer care and compassion and support for him, he realized that all of these things that he had heard about this community of people that was growing and building and showing love for each other like nobody else, he decided that day to give his life to the Lord, that he declared faith in Jesus, and he was baptized. In Acts 2, verse 42 to 47, it doesn't tell this story. It tells the scenario that sets us up for stories like that to have been true. I don't know of any actual person who that was about. I made that up, but it fits this. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and signs were done by the apostles. And all the believers were together and had everything in common. And they sold their possessions and goods and gave to anyone as he had need. And every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts and around. They broke bread in each other's homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God, enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. And what that would have looked like is the story I just told you of somebody who was in need, who found themselves in the midst of this meeting, hearing truth, but seeing the love that these people had, that it wasn't just knowledge that they knew about, but it was life transformation that had changed who they were and how they lived. And they turned that into loving people to Jesus. And daily, the Lord added to their number those who were being saved. We're in a series now. Pastor Glenn kicked us off last week. Our lead pastor was here. That was pretty awesome. What do you think? Should we have him back sometime? Yeah? Would you guys be okay with that? He was here last week. He showed, well, you should watch it. It's online. It's cool. But he even showed us a video of explosions. We found explosion ideas that wouldn't work in here. It was like toxic fumes equals death. Don't do it. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I guess we shouldn't kill you all. But we weren't able to do that in here. But he did a great job of setting up this series for us. It's called Activate, talking about activating your faith. And he kicked it off with talking about being a catalyst. Be a catalyst, which is not just, it's a cool science term, and a catalyst is a really cool chemical, particular type of chemical in chemistry and in chemical reactions. A catalyst is some sort of element or chemical compound that doesn't change when it interacts with other things, but it causes change in those things. And so a catalyst is something that, like, you add it to stuff and that stuff goes blah, blah, and freaks out and changes or transforms or whatever, but the catalyst remains unchanged. And that's what we are called to be. It's our vision here at the church when Pastor Glenn and the elders and the leaders of the church are looking forward and going, man, what is God calling Pantano to be years down the road? What kind of church are we called to be? What kind of impact are we called to have? How are we meant to live out this call that Jesus has given us? The vision they see of what that looks like down the road is to be a catalytic force to bless Southern Arizona and the world. To be catalysts, to go out and change this world, make a difference. Man, who doesn't want to change the world? Isn't that kind of what we all hope? Like somehow, I don't know how, but man, I want to change the world. Like I want to do something great. I want to do something that means something, right? That's literally the only job you have as a Christian. You want to change the world, you're in the right place. This is it. This is the team. If you want to throw your hand up and grab a Bible, throw your hand in the air, hold it open like this. A Bible will land there. Close your hand around it. Pull it down, and we'll give you page numbers. You can open up and find where we're at. It's kind of awesome. So our leaders will bring you one. Or if you have a flat screen device in your pocket, you can pull those out, and you can find the Bible app. If you have that, go ahead and open up. We're going to start off in Matthew 5. If you don't have the Bible app, you can go to Bible.com. It's got a great mobile Bible on there. Mobile browser friendly, and you can go right to it from there. Starting in Matthew 5. Matthew chapter 5, Pastor Glenn talked about last week. I'm just going to read it quick, but verses 13 and 14, or 13 to 16, says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand and gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven." You are called to be light. Light shines and transforms darkness into things that are lit up, but it doesn't itself get changed. It just shines and it lights everything up. Salt changes the flavor of stuff, but it's still salt. If you salt something, now that thing tastes better, but you also still have salt on top of it. Salt is a catalyst. We are meant to go and change this world, change the flavor, draw out the good, purify, and help it to last. Be a catalytic force. But it's not just something clever. It's not just a twisting of words here. If you go to Matthew 28, you see that Jesus gave us this mission. This is the one thing we're supposed to do. And so this leads us into the mission statement for the church. But check this out. Jesus, right before he leaves for heaven, like this is the last thing he's going to do with his followers. He's already been crucified. He's died, like for a couple days. Then he got up. This year, Easter Sunday is April Fool's Day. That's awesome. It's like Jesus was like, ha ha, fool you. Okay. But so death couldn't hang on. Jesus came to them and said, this is Matthew 28, verse 18. It's on page 471 if you're in our Bibles. It says, Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teach them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I'm with you always to the end of the age. Jesus gave us a mission. He didn't leave and say like, hey guys, be cool, peace out. And then like fly up into heaven like. Instead, he's like, hey, all of the authority to rule all of the universe is mine. As the ruler of the universe, I have a mission for you. Go and make disciples, baptize them, and teach them to obey. Obey my commands. So we are called to go and change the world. Baptize people of every nation. Change the whole world, not just part of it, not just Tucson, not just the east side of Tucson, not just Vail, if that's where you're at, not just your neighborhood, not just your house, not just your class, but the whole world, here and there, all of it. Make disciples of all nations. You have a mission before you, but teach them to obey everything I've commanded you. What has he commanded us? A lot of people have weird ideas about that stuff. They think it's crazy. They're like, oh man, the Bible's just a book of a bunch of rules. Yeah, it's not though. A lot of religions are, but the Bible's not. There are some rules in here. But there's one set of rules that's more important than everything else. They're listed as the greatest commandment. If you turn backwards a little bit to Matthew 22, well, I don't have that page number, but it's a couple pages before where you were at. Matthew 22, verse 37, Jesus replied to a guy who asked, teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law? What's the biggest rule that God has? Is it going to be like, don't eat shellfish? Is it be like, don't eat pork? Don't cheat on your wife? Don't steal? Don't kill people? Don't be lame? Like, what's the rule? Greatest, biggest, most powerful, intense, strongest rule that God has for his people. Jesus lays it out right here, Matthew 22, verse 37. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and with all your mind. And this is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is just like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. What's the greatest commandment in the whole Bible? What's the number one rule? Love God, and then completely different, really hard, also love people. You have to love, and then you also have to love. What's the number one rule God has? Love. Make disciples. Number one rule about how to do that, love. So that leads us to our mission statement here as a church. Our vision is to be this catalytic force to change the world. How are we going to do that? Our mission. Loving people to Jesus. See, we got that part right. Love. Launching passionate people to make our world different. Make disciples who are ready to baptize disciples of every nation, who are going to teach them how to obey this commandment to love other people. And when Jesus says love, he doesn't just mean like fall in love with somebody and get all like romantic and kissy-kissy. He goes so far as to say that when he says we're to love people, it should look so crazy that would identify us as Christians. Because like right now, like how do people know that you're a Christian if they know that at all? Do they know that? Do you do anything that would show them? Would they have to look at your calendar and find, or check your like Snapchat story and find on the map that you posted something from here? They're like, oh, look, they're at Pantano Christian Church. I wonder if there's a soccer game there today. Like, would they know because this is where you spend Sunday morning? Would they know because this is where you're at on Wednesday night? Would they know because you wear a cross necklace or because you wore some Jesus t-shirt to school? Would they know that you're a Christian because you talk about Jesus all the time? Would they know that you're a Christian because you tell them, you're going to burn in hell, sinner? Or might they know that you are a Christian because of the way that you unconditionally love people that is so radically different and weird? I don't mean like weird, like you walk around like sloppy kissing everybody. Like, hey, you're loved. Like that's weird, not in a good way. I mean like, are you known by your love in a way that people go, dude, I don't know what it is with that person. But every time something comes, like they just have compassion and love for people that just doesn't even make sense. Jesus said, a new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. That's John 13, verse 34 and 35. All men will know that you are my disciples by your love for one another. We should love each other so much that people look at the church and go, dang, those people love each other a lot. Like they're not even family, but they act like it. They are awesome at taking care of one another. Let me go to one more thing. Same guy, John, wrote this. It's in 1 John, though. It's toward the end. It's like right before Revelation. There's a little tiny set of books called 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. If you turn there with me. 1 John chapter 4. It says this. Looking at verses 7 to 12. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who has been born of God and knows God, everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This isn't love. Not that we loved God. That's not love. That's not impressive. That's not even hard. God's the best thing ever. Loving him is not impressive. That's just like the default. We're going to sing a song after the message here called So Will I. And it's like, if all creation praises you, then so will I. Like if the freaking rocks will cry out. Jesus was challenged one time because everybody's worshiping him and the Pharisees are like, whoa, you better shut that down. And he was like, why? If they don't praise me, the rocks will cry out. Dude, if the stones are going to praise Jesus, if the stars declare the glory of God, if the mountains proclaim his presence and power and majesty because of how awesome all this stuff is, and it declares the goodness of God, then what are we doing? We're the ones made in his image. If anybody should be praising God, it's us. But it's not love that we love God, but it's love that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. He paid for our sins so that we could be reunited with him. Atonement is a hard word, but if you break it down, it looks like it says at one meant. He made us and him at one. He brought us back together. It mended the relationship between us and God. This is love. Friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. We are to love radically. We are called to love our enemies. We are called to love each other. We are called to love strangers. We are called to love people the way that God loved, with this sacrificial, atoning love that blows the minds of normal humans. Because they go, what is wrong with you that you would love someone like that? That's crazy talk. That's how we're supposed to love. So check this out. I'm going to give you some help. Here's how to love. Because it's one thing to hear that and be like, okay, yeah, I get it. I'm supposed to love. If I don't love people well, then I don't know Jesus at all. What do I do with that? I want to challenge you to bless somebody this week. And it's actually probably going to take you more than a week. Bless. Oh, we got the whole thing up already. All right, that's cool. Yeah, leave it. We're good. Bless. The first one's kind of cheating, but acronyms help you remember stuff. First one's cheating, but bless was kind of weird. Plus doesn't make any sense. It's not a word. So that one's, you don't bless people. That's like pressing them, but saying it wrong. You don't want to press people. You want to bless them. Don't bless them. Be in prayer. First thing, like think of somebody. So even right now as I'm saying this, like begin to ask God quietly. Like don't like stop and look, Lord, who am I supposed to? No. Just be asking God even right now as I'm talking. Like, God, who should I bless? Be in prayer about this person, for this person. Not just who, but how. How can I reach them? God, set me up with divine appointments. Set me up with just like these moments where I'm in their life and they're in mine and we just can't escape it. And I just have these opportunities to bless this person, to be in this person's life. But when you were there, when you were in that person's life, when they open up to you, when they give you this opportunity, when God puts this in front of you, don't just show up and you're like, I've been praying about this, and you show up and you're face to face and you're like, all right, Jesus died to save you. You have to follow him and come to church with me this week. Okay, bye. I'll see you on Sunday. That's not it. Listen to their story. Ask them about their life. Ask them about their faith. Find out who they are, what they care about, what's gone on in their life, what's hard for them, what do they struggle with. And don't just share all the right answers with them. If you have them, you probably don't. I don't have all the right answers. I have some, so I've read the Bible a lot, so I know it's a lot of the stuff that's in there. But listen to them. When you listen to somebody, you earn their trust. You earn a place in their heart, and you develop compassion and concern for them because you understand and know them. Then eat together. Who doesn't like food? Hang out and eat. Dude, your parents want you to be home for dinner, not just because it's like a weird rule to have, but like, they're like, what? You need to be home for dinner. You're like, I want to go play with my friends. And they're like, no, you got to be home for dinner. There's a reason for that. It's because good relationships are forged over food. It's just a thing that happens. It's how humans work. For some reason, when we eat, our hearts fill up easily. I don't know. Our hearts just open up to the other people we're consuming food with. So when you chow down and you're hanging out with people, that just makes better friendships. So when you eat together, it makes for better relationships. It makes you a bigger part of their life, and it's more intimate. It's more, there's a deeper friendship that happens in that. Then, once you've done those things, when you're in somebody's life, then you will find yourself with opportunities to serve them. Serve them. Notice none of these has been yet, tell them why they're going to hell. That's not on the list. Not even at the end. Serve them. Show them that they matter. Show them that you see them and that God cares for them and that you care for them. Serve them. Do something. Go out of your way to bless them. Then share the good news. And after all of these things have happened, when you have been that person who's been in their life and has been there in tough times and has shown them that you really care and you really are concerned about them and you really do have compassion for them, then when all of that stuff has happened, you will find yourself with opportunities where they're like, man, I just had the worst day. And you know who they're going to call? You. Because you're the one who cares. You're the one who's there. You're the one who's been part of this. They're going to call you up. And they're going to be like, I just had the worst day and I just found out the worst news, or I am just having such a hard time. And you are going to be the one who is placed right there to be able to say, hey, you know what? Pastor Brian's like really good at this. You should come to church with me and ask him. No, don't do that. You can also bring them to church. I would love to talk with them, but that's not the next step. The next step is you share the good news. Look, I don't have all the answers to what you're going through, but I tell you one thing. There's hope. There's a God who loves you. I believe that with everything in my heart. And when you have earned a spot in their life and they are coming to you in hard times and you say, can I pray for you? Can I take this to my God on your behalf? Because he's the only one who could fix this or do something about it. And they say, oh, yeah. You have the chance to share the truth of the good news of the gospel, that there is a loving God who died for them. Man, that's good news. He died to bring you healing and hope and a place forever. So let me tell you real quick how this works. Steven's going to start playing. We're going to kick this screen out of the way. Let me tell you real fast how this works. At my last church, I had a kid who was in 8th grade. He was a middle schooler. So toward the end of 8th grade, it was in the spring, it was about this time, he started coming to church. His mom started bringing him, and my youth room faced directly to the parking lot. It'd be kind of like if we had that door as the main entrance, and parking lot's right there. And so I would stand out front there and like greet people as they showed up, like we do out here in the courtyard. And we're standing there, and his mom rolls up, and I can already hear everybody yelling in the car. They get out of the car, she's like, I don't care, you're going to church, you don't have any say in this, you get in there. And he's like, I don't want to effing go to church. I don't like any of this. That guy looks like an effing idiot. Like, no joke. Like, he's cussing at me, he's cussing at his mom, he's screaming stuff. They're yelling at each other like, whoa, this is awesome. Man, this guy's going to be stoked. We're going to play cookie face, and he's going to hate us. He hated everything about it. He hated every second of it. When you just bring somebody to church, you know where you're starting? At the wrong end of that list. I'm not saying don't bring people to church, but if you have no other relationship and your entire attempt at reaching into their life is just like, hey, I don't even know you, but you should come to church with me. And they're like, bro, we're not friends. Like, I don't know you. Why would I come with you? It's weird. It's hard to start there. Not saying it doesn't work. Y'all are here. I don't know. But it doesn't always. And this kid hated it. Every second of it, he hated it. Man, he couldn't stand it. He was upset. He would throw stuff. He would knock his chair over and be noisy just to interrupt the message. He would just be a punk. He would talk. He would heckle us while we were preaching. Like, he was terrible. His mom sent him to camp with me. I was his small group leader. Every night, we're sitting around on the bunks in the cabin, and we're doing small group and talking about the message from that night and everything. And he would never say anything except like making fun of what other people were saying. And then every once in a while, he would do something like stepping forward, or he would slide forward on his bunk, like come out from under the shadows and everything. And he'd lean forward and he'd be like, sometimes I just lay here awake all night and look at all of you and think, I could kill all of you before you woke up. And I'm like, dude, you can't say stuff like that. I mean, he was joking. He was just trying to be weird. And he'd be like, I think that there is no God and you're all fools. And I don't believe in your stupid God and all of this. And he would just go off and say stuff and interrupt and just be a punk all the time. Just anything he could to try and be a jerk and a smart aleck. All of it. We get to a few nights into camp, they have the stereotypical summer camp, this is salvation night. This is when we're going to preach the gospel and everybody's going to get saved and it's going to be awesome. And so they had that night at camp. And so he wasn't there, and I'm looking around, and there's 1,200 people at this camp. It was a big camp. It was high school camp. So he was about to be a freshman. So he's there at high school camp with us, and I'm looking around. I'm like, I cannot find this dude. And that was one of the requirements. You have to be with us at group sessions and food. And I hadn't seen him since the afternoon. We finally, session's over. We go back to the cabin. You know what we found? Dude sleeping in his bunk. Went up to take a nap that afternoon. Totally slept through the whole service. Bro, come on. Now I'm thinking about killing you. No. Just kidding. Too far. No, I was frustrated though. I was pretty upset. So I gave it to him a little bit. I was like, dude, come on, man. Two things you got to show up to: food and service. Come on. So we're talking. He doesn't say anything. He's just like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. So then he scoots forward and he's like, hey, can I say something? Totally interrupts. He's not participating in the conversation. We're like, no. All the guys are like, no, please don't talk. We're sick of hearing from you. I don't want to hear you talk about how you're a demon or how you want to murder me or how any other nonsense. Just no. But there's something different on his face. I'm like, hang on, guys. Yeah, man, go for it. He goes, well, I came here and I'm an atheist. I've always been, I don't believe in any of this nonsense. My mom made me come. I don't even want to be here. I don't even like you guys. Well, this is going really well. Yay, thanks for sharing. He goes, but I've been listening this week, and I know I say a lot of dumb stuff, but sometimes I ask questions, and you guys actually paid attention to listen to me. You answered my questions. You showed care. You guys actually care for each other. I've been watching you all week. You actually care for each other. You haven't left me out. You haven't just made me feel like a loner. You've actually embraced me like I'm a friend, and I've been horrible to you, and you've still been hanging out with me all the way to, I've asked hard questions, and you've had answers for them, and I see that you guys really believe all this stuff, and you live it pretty well, and I know I slept through the session tonight, and I guess that's when they told everybody about how to do this Jesus thing, but I don't know how to say this. I believe in Jesus and God and whatever. I don't know what that looks like, but I think I believe all this. What do I do now? What? So we prayed with him, and then we called his mom, and we told her, and we baptized him, and he's in. He's part of the family. We listened to him, we ate with him, we served him. He slept through the freaking gospel presentation, and God got a hold of his heart anyway, because he saw the love that we had in the midst of that. You guys, this isn't just stuff to do. It's not just a clever saying that makes us sound like we have some cool stuff going on as a church. The reason when you get saved that it's not beam me up, Jesus, and you just disappear off the planet out of this evil, horrible place is because we have a mission here to shine the light of Christ in the lives of others. We have a mission to bless people, to love people to Jesus, to train them up in the things that he's commanded us, to show people how to love well and serve others and send them out to teach more people this good news. You want your life to mean something? You want to change the world? Live a life. Join us on this mission that when you get to stand in heaven, you don't just get to hang out with Jesus, but that you get to have people come up and be like, dude, you didn't even know what this meant to me, but that time when you reached out and you did this, that was one of the things that drew me to Jesus. That was one of those moments. If you're really lucky, you might even hear about some of that on this side of heaven. But man, you live for Jesus, you're going to transform lives that'll last forever. God has left you here on this earth and called you to this purpose. There's nobody that's left out of that call. If you sign up to follow Jesus, that's the ask. And he didn't say, go do that and I'll hear about it later. He said, go do this and I will be with you, even to the end of the age. So we're going to leave that acronym up for a little bit while they start worship. And if you want to, we have cards and pens around at the communion stations. If you want to write that down so you remember how to bless somebody, be in prayer, listen to them, eat with them, serve them, then share the good news. You want to write that down on the other side of the card. Write somebody's name down. Who are you going to do this with? Who do you need to bless? Who's God put in your life that maybe somebody you can barely stand, but you know they don't know Jesus. It's cheating if you pick the person sitting next to you. I'm talking somebody who really doesn't know. Who are you going to share this life-changing good news with? As we take communion, think of it this way. Jesus didn't have to do this, and we were his enemies, but God's love is proved to us in this, Romans 5:8. God's love is proved to us in this, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. While we were still enemies of God, Christ died for us. God loves you, and he loves that person you can't stand that you need to bless. He loves that person that you know doesn't want to hear this, but they need it. We take the bread and communion and remember his body broken on the cross. We take the blood, the juice representing his blood. We don't drink blood. Take the juice representing his blood and remember the new covenant that he forged, saying, my blood for you, you get eternal life in me by your faith. Let's take communion together. Let's find somebody to bless. If you need prayer, we'll have some people up here at the front of the stage that can pray with you. I'm going to pray. We'll do this. Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your blessing. Thank you for sending your son when we didn't deserve it. Thank you for sending us hope and a way to live, because we don't deserve life. We deserve death. We've earned death. But you brought us life and forgiveness anyway. Help us to remember that and to share your